Hi, I have the privilege to speak almost the whole day, so I really try hard not to repeat myself. And there are quite a few insights I have, and I want to finalize with some of the things I also learned, but also what we discussed during the day. So what is very important for me is just to make this cause that the democratic resilience is really possible, and why I believe it's stronger than anything else, because there is no one force who can protect the people and do something. It's like a network. Sometimes state fails, but the civil society can help. Sometimes civil society have no money, but the business can come up. Sometimes you need to work together. Sometimes it's cooperation between business and state, sometimes of civil society and business. So the most important thing is this network. The second, we worked in the research, and I think it's something important for Taiwan, on how to overcome polarization. Basically, in our organization, we did a numerous sociological research on sensitive issues. That was about what unites Ukrainians, the country which was usually portrayed internationally as a very divided society, and there was this image inside. For instance, on the issue of the memory, because it's also very heavily used by the Russian propaganda, the memory of the Second World War in particular. And later we found out the very same thing. Whether we did our research on why people don't trust COVID vaccine, or over all types of the conspiratorial propaganda, or the draft to the army, we understood that societies are actually more moderate and more united than sometimes it's look. But there are always the questions when media or civil society don't answer. So I give you example from our research on the COVID and vaccines. We did a research when just vaccines happened, because we really were afraid that Russia would exploit the topic of conspiratorial thinking about vaccines, like these kind of weird things which will happen to the people. And then most of the Ukrainian media at that time were writing reports, in a way debunking debunking, saying that, don't be crazy, believe vaccines. And by sociological and focus group, we understood that most of the people actually, in fact, didn't believe in conspiracies. Just 7% of them did. Most had very relevant issues, like, what if my wife is pregnant? What if my mother is 95 and she has 3 diseases? And for us, that was the universal answer for anything we did later. That usually people ask sometimes the question. So for instance, in the moment of the turmoil, like even now, we're lacking the manpower. And there is a lot of campaign to say that Ukrainians are not patriotic, they don't want to fight. But when we discussed and understood what are the things which are stopping people to fight, it's usually like they don't know the process, they don't know what would be the, for instance, the payment for their family. What if they are very high-profile engineers, but they would be sent to some kind of frontline second day after? And usually the people, the groups and the platoons and the brigades, which have a very good, let's say, HR explaining people the steps, they were the most useful to recruit the people. So I'm giving this example just to say that it's usually you need to find the right answer for the vulnerable topics, and then you can engage most of the people. I also want to say there is no one magic tool. So I've spoken a few times about this map of air alert, which was developed during the first days, and you can think, we did it. But the problem that few years later people stopped to follow it because it didn't differentiate the levels of threat, and they were added just last year. So for me it's very important to say that you innovate constantly. And for instance, sometimes you just get inspired. So we have the application by the private company on the blackout, so you can plan your life, because energy systems should kind of secure some level of the energy, so you need to plan. And then when do you do your laundry? Do you do it at 5 a.m. in the morning? Do you do it at 9 a.m.? Would you be able to, I don't know, cook this evening or things like that? But the idea, I'm saying that not about one particular app, but if you know that such app exists, you create something similar just because you know that there is always a way. Because for me, the government, it's always about the making the life of the citizens citizens easier. I think it's very important to remind that sometimes there is no one answer what to do, there is no one answer, but just engagement of the people helps later. So for instance, we had, I'm repeating myself, but we had numerous groups which were helping elderly, youngsters, but during the war they were pivotal for evacuation, so the people can be together. Sometimes, you know, you really need not to create the collapse of the system, so sometimes totally unusual things appear. So for instance, when Ukrainian borders were blocked and we didn't have railway enough of ports, and there was this queues, there was the very same application came up, then the people could create an online queue. And this type of things, for me it's very important to say that you can obviously criticize the government. The government also have to do their job, and they understood if they don't solve this problem, there would be issue on the border. There would be, you know, not a riot, but huge problems in the country. So, but the final things are, there is a limit to how much you can do online and offline. So I'm saying that, yes, we developed a very nice apps for online education, and the COVID told us how to teach students which are outside, which are, you know, moved to different countries. But to be honest, here you see the building, and I've just been last week in the opening of the underground school. We're now building underground schools because, and people, children, that was their first day in the school, and they say they're happy because people need to see each other. So it's both offline and online. You won't kind of just take the one part of it. Sometimes you can have, you know, very active military tools, and that's not for the people to provide it. So for instance, in Ukraine, you have this boat, it's called I Want to Leave. It's for Russian soldiers to defect. But in Russia, there is a particular similar boat which helping the Russians to escape mobilization developed, but particularly a tiny group of people. So in Ukraine, it's a state. In there, it's a different organization, but very similar idea. And this was my last slide, but just to say something like that, nobody, it's not everybody would be actively engaged in something kind of very dangerous or something which requires a lot of effort. But the point is that you need to, it's important to accept that there won't be always the whole society on alert, but there is always a big part of the society ready to engage. So it's up to us who are a bit more active to just be there and guide the people, telling like, if you want to be there during a particular moment, that's your toolkit, that's where you need to call, that's how it will work. And there will be always those who do, and there will be always those who won't, and that's absolutely okay. Thank you so much. I think that like kind of a very quick summary of the day, and I really think here there is an incredible society, and I'm very inspired, and it really helps with all the news from Washington for us, for me to be here and to see that, you know, the world is very kind and nice place, more friendly than I would think when I just read the news today. Thank you.